Before we dive in how to buy, sell, and even create NFTs, there is one important thing which you need to be aware of, and that is what we call gas fees. Now, I'm not going to bore you with lots and lots of theory about how Ethereum came out, the blockchain, as that is what literally every person does, and all they end up doing is complicating things and making it more difficult to understand. I'm going to explain it in a nice and straightforward way. Again, I'll be adding in some animations to make it even clearer. In the most simplest terms, a gas fee is literally a transaction fee. These gas fees apply to all transactions made in Ethereum. It doesn't matter if you're buying an NFT, whether you're buying a hat for your girlfriend or your boyfriend, it doesn't matter. If the transaction is made in Ethereum, there is going to be a gas fee applied to it. Some important things to know, as a lot of people seem to be getting this wrong and getting confused, is number one, gas fees are not a fixed amount. For some reason, a lot of people out there are saying gas fees should always be between $0 and $10. I have no idea where people get this information from, but it's completely false. That is not true. The second thing to be aware of is gas fees are not a percentage of the transaction value. Gas fees literally fluctuate in price every second. It is not a fixed amount, and you're going to see exactly what I mean in the next section of the course when I go ahead and purchase an NFT. So you're probably wondering, well, if gas fees are not a fixed amount and they're also not a percentage of the transaction value, then how are they calculated? So the exact specific amount you are going to be charged is based upon how many other transactions are currently getting processed on the Ethereum blockchain. We talked about how in the blockchain there are these really powerful computers which are checking and validating payments, right? Well, gas is literally the computing power required to process a transaction. If there are a lot of transactions going on at the same time, then it's going to cost more to process your transaction. To understand exactly what this means, let's go ahead and look at another animation. Let's imagine you go onto your favorite retailer's website and you see this amazing green hat, you absolutely love it and you want to buy it for your partner. And after checking the price, you find out that this hat costs 1 ETH, 1 Ethereum. So you take out your card, you swipe it on the machine, and then you send that 1 ETH to the retailer. To process this payment, you will be charged a gas fee. You may have heard of the term miners before. Well, you know those big powerful computers I was talking about, the ones that process all the payments? Well, miners own those computers. Now, just to clarify, these aren't these really small laptop computers. These are literally massive powerful computers which literally fill up a whole room. Well, they are the ones that process the payment for you. And to process the payment, they charge you a fee. This fee is what we call gas. So we're basically paying a miner to process our payment. Which is why if there are a lot of transactions going through the Ethereum blockchain, then these miners are going to be in more demand and they're going to charge you more for gas to process your transaction. However, as there are a different amount of transactions going through literally every second, the amount you will pay is going to fluctuate if you did it 1 second later, 2 seconds later, even 3 seconds later. The price of gas is changing literally every second. Although the biggest takeaway here is that the amount you pay is going to be dependent on how busy the blockchain is. If you're still struggling to understand what gas is, then the best way to view gas is literally like gas you put in a car. Imagine your car's fuel tank is always empty, and you want to get that car from A to B. Well, it's going to need some gas in it. Miners are essentially the people who determine how much gas costs in that specific moment. If you choose not to pay for the gas, then your car, aka transaction, is not going to go anywhere. If you ever want to figure out how much gas costs in a specific moment, then you can use this website right here, ethereumprice.org/gas. I will include a link to this in the resources for ease, but essentially what this will do is it will show you the price of gas over the last week. So you can see there's really big spikes where you can see at some points in time, gas was costing a lot of money. Now, this is really useful to know, as if you are running on a tight budget, you obviously do not want to be making any purchases using Ethereum when gas prices are really high. So I really recommend you actually come into here and check the gas prices. And it's always good to see past historical trends as well, just to see historically when gas has been on the high. Now, 9 times out of 10, when you see a big spike in gas like this, It is most likely due to a massive NFT project releasing and everyone is trying to mint that NFT, and what you result in? Lots of congestion charge on the network and higher gas prices. You can actually scroll down and get a breakdown of gas price by the time of the day. For example, you can see that right here on Sunday at 4 a.m. UK time, gas price was a little bit higher than it was an hour later at 5 a.m. You can see 74 gigawatt right there, which by the way is a metric that gas is measured in. I'm going to go through a detailed analysis of the gas breakdown in just a second for those who are interested and would like to learn more about gas. But essentially, the darker the color you see here, the more expensive gas is in that specific moment. So if I was looking at this chart, let's imagine it is Saturday right now, and let's imagine it was 7 p.m. GMT time. If I can see that this color is darker than the previous color, which would be above it, 6 p.m., then I am not going to make a transaction. I'm going to wait for this little segment to come down to a more brighter color so I know that I'm not overpaying for gas. If you don't care about any of this historic trends and you're not really interested in seeing how much gas costs 2 days ago, 3 days ago, then you can use this other website, which is also really good. It's called everscan.io/gas tracker. Once again, I will include a link to this in the resources. And what this does, it will give you an average price of how much gas costs based on all the transactions currently going through Ethereum's blockchain. We get a low figure, an average figure, and a high figure. And notice these figures are going to be changing all the time, as of course, the price of gas is always changing as well. The one you need to pay attention to is going to be the middle one right here, which says average, as this is the average price of gas. You can have a low and a high price of gas, as what you'll discover is sometimes people will manually determine how much gas they want to pay per transaction. Some people have a really strict budget and will not want to spend a specific amount in gas, and what they'll do is they'll enter in the minimum and the maximum gas figures in the wallet when they're processing a transaction, and that is why you get a low and a high figure for gas. What's good to note as well is if you go for a low figure, a figure lower than the average, then your transaction is going to take longer to process and actually go through. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to want to change these gas figures. Just leave it to the default that the wallet has, and your transaction is going to go through in a timely manner. I was planning to initially end the video there, but I want to go a little bit deeper into gas and explain exactly how it is calculated, as there are actually 2 other variables which are used in addition to network congestion. Meaning there are 3 things that determine the price of gas, which are number 1, the current price of Ethereum, number 2, the complexity of the transaction you are trying to process, and number 3, as we just discussed, the network congestion, aka how many people are processing a transaction at the same time. Now, I want to stress something that's really, really important, is that the first 2, number 1, the current price of Ethereum, and number 2, the complexity of the transaction, well, these 2 things are fixed. You cannot control the price of Ethereum, and you can't control the complexity of the transaction, as when you're buying NFTs, it's pretty much the same complex in terms of processing power. So this is why when I explained earlier on in the video that gas is basically determined by the network congestion, as that is something you have control over. You have no control over number 1 and number 2. So if you don't want to get too detailed into gas and you're not really interested in figuring out what is number 1 and number 2, how does it work, how does this actually calculate into a formula to determine the price of gas, then you don't have to worry about that. However, this part of the video is for those who really want a detailed explanation of exactly how gas is calculated. So how do we calculate gas? Gas is measured in a unit called gigawatt, and 1 gigawatt is 1 billionth of an ether, or 0.0000001 Ethereum. Of course, no one's going to be saying that massive long number. You can say it costs 1 gigawatt. As you can imagine, saying 1 gigawatt instead of 1 billionth of an ether is a lot more simple and straightforward, which is why we use the unit gigawatt when talking about gas. The minimum amount of gas required to process a transaction, aka buying an NFT, is 21,000. To calculate your gas fee, you must multiply that number by the average gas cost noted in gigawatt. So let me run through an example and show you exactly what this means in the real world. So let's imagine that at this current time, Ethereum costs $2,500. And we know that a transaction costs 21,000 gas. We go over to those gas websites I showed you, and we can see that the average gas price is 69 gig away. Well, to work out the gas price, it would be 21,000, the transaction cost, times 69, which is the average gas price, and that will give us our total gigawatt number, which is 1,449,000. And to convert this number into money, what we need to do is convert gigawatt into Ethereum. So we know that 1 gigawatt equals 1 billionth of an Ethereum, meaning that 1,449,000 gigawatt is equal to 0.01449 Ethereum. We know that 1 Ethereum equals $2,500, so we can easily work out that 0.001449 Ethereum is going to cost $3.62, meaning our gas fee is going to be $3.62. I hope that makes sense. However, if you are finding this a little difficult to understand, then honestly, I would not stress, as when you buy an NFT using a wallet such as MetaMask, which I'm going to show you in the next section of the course, whenever you make a purchase, well, it's automatically going to work out the gas fee for you. You don't have to worry about doing any of these calculations or anything like that. You can literally just go and find an NFT you want to buy. It will automatically calculate the gas fee for you. However, like I said, I'm just going through the detailed analysis and explanation just so those who are interested know how gas fees actually work. However, in a nutshell, if you don't care about any of this stuff, then all you need to know is that the amount you are going to pay for gas is going to be dependent on how busy the network is, as like I just said, you don't control number 1 or number 2 of the actual gas calculation. The only thing you can control is how busy the network is. If you see the gas fee is really high, then it means the network is congested. You can come back at a later date to process that transaction. So now you know what gas fees are and how they work. I'll see you in the next video where we're going to break down the 2 different types of gas fees there are. I'll see you there.